All right, we'll call to order the regular meeting of the West Valley City Council this April 26, 2022. It is 6:30 and we're in the City Council chambers of City Hall. Our roll call, we have two excused councilmen, Councilman Fitzsimonu and Councilman Harmon. All other members of the council are present. We will now turn the time over to Councilman Hoon for our opening ceremony.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it very much. And I just want to invite every one of you and to stand up and do a pledge with me. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now have the minutes of April 19th, 2022. Is there a discussion or a motion on the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes of April 19th.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and those pass. All right, we'll now go to our proclamations. Today we have the proclamation declaring April 29th as Arbor Day in West Valley City. We have our arborist, Darren Nerdin, here with us tonight, and I appreciate that. West Valley City itself, not counting residential trees, has over 5,000 trees. The value of those 5,000 trees is $3.9 million. And West Valley City has received Tree City USA recognition for 27 years, including 15 years of the Growth Awards. So for West Valley City, Darren runs a very efficient tree program, and we appreciate that. And I'd like to recognize that program tonight. So thank you. All right, we'll now go to our comment period. We will now accept public comment. Comment period is limited to 30 minutes. Any person wishing to comment shall limit their comments to 5 minutes. Upon recognition by the mayor, you will approach the mic. If you did not sign up with your name and address, please give those to us when you come to the mic. All comments should be directed to the mayor. No person addressing the city council during the comment period shall be allowed to comment more than once. And speakers, this is your time for your information. It's not a debate, and the council and staff will have their time to respond in the 30-minute time period. So we just had one person sign up tonight, so please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jim Visak, 5491 West Lockwood Drive. I remembered. Last week I didn't say anything, but on this week I want to mention the Cambodian New Year, my hometown event that went on 2 weeks ago. Great event, great food. They had extra food at the end. My hometown is reaching out to so many different communities and bringing them into the resource centers and putting on these events, and allows white boys like me to eat some stuff that I probably wouldn't have eaten. And it was such a good event. Councilman Hoon was there, brought his family, and it was good seeing him there. And it was a packed event, leading me into Springfest. We didn't know what it was going to be when we took it over the Culture Center. But with all the partners that we were doing Springfest with, we were hoping for this super event. Mother Nature puts a wrinkle into it. But Craig had a backup plan, bring it inside. We had over 60 vendors, and Councilman Whetstone, was there, and Councilman Norfelt were both there. And we had anywhere from 500 to 750 people there. It was a great attended event, lots positive event, and everybody said they liked it better there. We should keep it there. And so it was a great event, very successful for West Valley City. The only negative was all day long, the press was talking about events throughout the city or throughout other cities that were going on. Nobody said anything about Springfest. ABC News did show up. The way he found out about it, though, was from a friend of a friend, and he pitched it to his people to come out. There was no press put out about it. He said there was nothing put, so we didn't get any PR. And the little blurb that we got on the news, it was just that they moved it inside, kind of a basic thing. So it'd be nice to get more PR about something, especially with Trees of Utah and all the other people that were there. And I mean, we had so many different, Quick Quack was there talking about how they saved water. You know, my hometown people were there. Dan was there with his plans of what's going on in the city. And he had detailed map. You could touch his screen and it would say, this is what the project's going. And that's the first time that I've seen him at those. And it was so cool to have that, to be there. There was so many, and I don't want to leave out any other vendors, but everybody had a great time. And it was really fun. We had food throughout the whole thing, and we didn't run out. At the end, they were still getting cotton candy at the end. So it was very, very cool. My home, Clean and Beautiful Yard Awards are coming up. If you guys see something in your neighborhood that looks good, pass it, get it to Craig. I mean, you guys are eyes out there too. And so that we can award, you know, to the right people. And it's kind of a big deal. And my hometown is piggybacking on it another way. I just found out today. So we're going to have more recognition, more awards, and it brings positivity to the neighborhoods. And that's what we want. I mean, it helps out with code enforcement. It helps out with everything when the neighbors are working together. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Was there anyone else that did not have the opportunity to sign up that would like to speak? Seeing none, do we have anybody online? Okay, thank you. Turn the time over to the city manager. Would you have any comments?
No, ma'am. Thanks.
And to the council, any comments? Okay, we will close the comment period and move on to our resolutions. We have resolution 22-73. Mr. Pyle.
Thank you, ma'am. This resolution would authorize the execution and delivery of an amendment to a master lease agreement that would provide for up to $6.5 million in bonding to be able to purchase and complete the construction of the court project here on the other half of the City Hall building. We don't foresee, just for general clarification, we don't foresee the project actually costing 6.5, but in the bonding process, it's normal to allow for unforeseen changing circumstances and just make sure you're within those parameters.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn it to the council for discussion or a motion.
Just a question. I know you may have mentioned this during the study meeting, but at what point do we know the rate that?
We should know. Oh, I forgot Laura was here. You know what? This would actually be. Oh, okay. It actually would be a good time for me to introduce Laura Lewis, who's our financial advisor. She's been working with us for years and works with us on these bond projects. So Laura knows the timeline inside and out. She would be able to answer that, Laura.
That's nice to see all of you and nice to see you in the mayor's seat. I have to say congratulations since I haven't seen you since that great event. So
Thank you. Would you give us your name and the firm?
it's a long one. We keep
I know.
debating. We keep debating
keep
whether or
adding.
not we should shorten it. It's Lewis, Young, Robertson, Birmingham. We sound like a bunch of attorneys. Everyone thinks we're attorneys, which is good, but but we're not. So anyway, I've been the financial advisor to West Valley City for almost as long as I can remember. And that's even taking into account that my memory isn't as great as it used to be. I've seen many great things happen in the city. And, you know, when the person who maybe has gone home was talking about the Cambodian festival, I'm like, oh, I wish I'd have known about that. My friend's daughter is from Cambodia and we didn't attend it last year, but we will be attending it next year. I'll let her know about that. So there's a process that the city has to go through both for state and federal law purposes relative to issuing tax exempt debt. And many of those things are, governed by state law in terms of timing. So to get you to your question. So if you approve the resolution that's before you tonight, that starts a clock ticking, what we call a 30-day contestability period. That means that any one of your citizens can come in and say, basically, you didn't follow the process in terms of notification and, that kind of thing. So the resolution gets published. It puts your citizens on notice that you intend to go out to bond. It also sets a time and date for a public hearing if they want to come in and, say they don't want you to bond or whatever. And with that, while that clock is running, then we get bond documents more perfected and ready to go to the rating agency. So that's kind of like a credit report sort of process for the city. Those bonds will be rated and then they'll be ready to go to market. So drum roll, I've got the calendar up now. I just haven't scrolled through it here. People are thinking, are you ever going to really answer my question? So the public hearing would be scheduled for May 17th, and we would anticipate pricing the bonds around June 6th to the 9th, somewhere is when you would really know. So what that process looks like is once the, it's called an official statement, think in your head of like a stock prospectus, only it's, even though it's not easy to read, it's easier to read than a stock prospectus. We work with an underwriter, they get that out to all the investors, and the underwriter gives us an idea of what they think, where the buyers will buy those bonds. There's typically about a 2 to 3 3-hour order period when those buyers submit their orders. And if there's enough of them at the right rates, then the deal's done. And at that point, the rates are set. A document gets signed called the bond purchase agreement. The city official signs that, the underwriter signs that. And after that point, if the world goes to crazy town financially, it's already a little bit there now, but if it goes even crazier, that's when your rates are locked in. And it typically takes about 2 weeks after that before we close and get the money sent to you. Probably a lot more than you wanted to know, but now you know. Any other questions?
So basically, we don't know the rate for right now.
No, the parameters resolution currently contemplates a maximum of 5.5%. I don't think the actual interest cost on the bonds will be that much, but you might see, and it's only, I don't know of any, I've been in the mortgage business, I've been in other, financial industries. I don't know of another financial product that uses what they call difference in couponing versus yield, other than the bond world. And it basically is a means of capturing what bond purchasers want to make basically a tax play, whether they're going to hold the bonds and sell them or whatever, right? So you can, the easiest way I can think of sort of in a, non-bond comparison is if you go to a car dealer and you, being rational people, know that an interest rate on a car loan is 3%, right? And the car salesman says to you, I'm going to sell you this car at 0% interest. But you know that true interest cost is like 3%, right? What do you think is likely happening to that car? Price is going up, right? Right. So that's kind of the only, world example that I can give you, kind of in a layperson world that's not in a bond world. So it's that kind of thing where the bond purchasers are saying, look, I want the coupons on this bond to be 5%. So, I mean, they don't tell us why, they just say, this is what we demand. And sitting on your side of the table, I say, that's nice, but real interest rates on this ought to be 3.5%. You want this bond to have an interest rate of 5, you're going to pay us more for that bond. So instead of $5,000, bonds are sold in $5,000 increments, you're going to pay us, this is not the right math. I did not whip out my calculator, but you're going to pay us $5,500. So at closing, you get more money for agreeing to pay them that higher rate of interest over time. And we have all these fancy computer programs that help us know what your real interest cost is, called the true interest cost. I'm expecting that in today's market, the feds have already built in the 50 basis point increase. The feds have already talked about a 50 basis point increase on May 4th. The markets have already built that in effectively. I think your rate's going to be in the high 3s, low 4s in terms of a true interest cost is where I expect you'll be.
One more question. I'm just curious about the local people. Are they buying that bond or a company
Yes.
or just insurance company?
The largest buyers are typically, it's a very good question, Councilman. The largest buyers are typically bond funds or insurance companies, but there's no reason individuals cannot buy them. Again, they have to be sold in $5,000 increments. But typically most of them go to probably the most local type of entity. There's a tax refund called the Tax Refund for Utah. And their name's Aquila. And they'll typically buy a decent sized chunk of these bonds with them being rated. They don't buy non-rated stuff, but they'll buy rated bonds.
Just one other question. Sorry, maybe this is for Mr. Pyle, but by passing the resolution tonight, are we agreeing to a ceiling on the rate, or is it just?
It's basically what we were talking about. You're aware of a range,
Mhm.
but we won't know for sure what it is until, like Laura said.
But it is a ceiling. So
Yeah.
let's say that, I don't know what catastrophic event you could think of that isn't already happening in the world, and rates go even higher. And that there's no way we can get the true interest cost below 5.5%. Our choices are, okay, sorry, not doing this deal today. And that would be a very real choice. And we would have that discussion. Or we would have to come back and go through this process all over again, which we don't want to do. That's why I try to put a little bit of fluff in that, if you will.
And I will add to that, Councilman, that like Laura was saying, you still do have those other options. Therefore, like we talked about beforehand, we could approach financing in a different way. We could decide we wanted to pay out of fund balance.
Yep.
That's those sorts of options.
Or we could shorten the amortization. So
Right.
let's say I can't get to 5.5 over 25 years, but we could if we did it over 20. I mean, so there are things that we could do, but we do have to stay in the box of what the parameters state today if you adopt it.
And this bond is scheduled out. It can take a year. We could take up to a year to finalize it if
Yes,
the
yeah,
rates just go
it's-
wacky and we can't do it.
It's interesting. State law doesn't specifically state that. But the attorneys that write the bond opinions have indicated they're generally comfortable with a year
Okay,
for the resolution to still be good, not be stale.
okay, thank you. All right.
Okay, although none of you fell asleep, I did bring cookies. So you can have some sugar for listening to me blather on about finance.
Thank you. All right, any more questions? Otherwise, I'll turn it over to the council for comments or a motion.
I move for approval of resolution 22-73.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Kamic?
Councilman Whitstone,
Yes.
Councilman Hune,
Aye.
Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
Councilman Nordfelt,
Yes.
and Mayor Ling.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. We will now turn to resolution 22-74. Mr. Pyle?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Got to turn the mic on there. In accordance with previously stated council desire and direction, we have been out looking for various places in the city to continue to acquire green space for the purpose of building parks in the future. We have one of those parcels to bring to you tonight, and this one is 1.3 acres located at 4100 South and 5980 West, and is in the amount of $829,000, which we would take from general fund balance. Just for quick reminder, this is over by Westview Park, right across the street. And we're trying to parcel together some pieces, including a piece that UDOT owns that they have allowed us long-term usage for recreational purposes.
Okay, thank you. I will now turn it to the council for comments or a motion.
Move for approval of resolution 22-74.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Kamic?
Councilman Nordfelt.
Yes.
Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
Councilman Hune,
Aye.
Councilman Whitstone,
Yes.
and Mayor Ling.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, we'll now go to our consent agenda, and we have 5 items. Mr. Pyle?
Thank you, ma'am. These are all associated with an overlay project in the vicinity of 3100 South. They're all right-of-way purchase agreements, accepting warranty deeds. Most of them have a temporary construction easement on them. There are 2 that are slightly over the amount of $2,000. All the other ones are under $1,000.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn it to the council now for any comments or a motion.
I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Kamic?
Councilman Whitstone,
Yes.
Councilman Hune,
Aye.
Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
Councilman Nordfelt,
Yes.
and Mayor Ling.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, we're going to ask for a motion to adjourn, but note that we have a building authority meeting right after this meeting, so we'll start that immediately after. So a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned.
Would like to call to order the building authority for a special meeting. We've had an opening ceremony and roll call. We're down to the approval of the minutes from January 4th, our annual meeting.
I'd move for approval of those said minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We have one resolution tonight. Mr. Pyle, would you like to introduce that?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So in relation to the bond issue that was just considered and passed in the regular council meeting, we also passed the same resolution in the building authority. The reason we do this is because eventually as the building or the project is constructed and then debt service, that is financed through that entity, the building authority.
Thank you. To the board.
So just more questions. You mentioned that it's unlikely that they'll use all of those funds. Is that just paid back or how does that work?
Sorry, what was the
Is
question?
it just paid back if we're not using all of the?
Oh, yeah, no,
proceeds from the bond?
what will happen is we won't take that much. We'll just bond for the actual amount as needed.
Okay.
Within, again, those parameters. So that could change a little bit up on the par amount or the interest rate or the amortization table or whatever, but eventually you'll have a set amount that comprises the project. The 6.5, and again, it's a great question and it's good probably for everybody in the public that would hear, is really a parameter around which you're just trying to project. It won't go over this. We don't expect it to be there, but we want to have the freedom to be able to get the project done, which is also, again, a great point or illustrates the point that the mayor was making in terms of how long you also have to consider or execute it, along with the possibility, of course, we just don't go through the transaction at all and reconsider a different way to do that. I probably also ought to mention, sorry, now you got me rolling here. We are actually underway in the project because we already had about half of the funding to move this along. So we are going both on the purchase and starting demolition of the construction now.
I move for approval of resolution 22-01.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Ms. Kamic?
Mr. Whitstone,
Yes.
Mr. Harmon,
Aye.
Mr. Hune.
Harmon wasn't here.
Oh, he's not here. Oh, my goodness.
Her
Mr.
pen
Hune.
exploded. I'll
Exploded.
give her a little.
Mr. Hune,
Aye.
Ms. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Nordfelt,
Yes.
and Chairman Christensen.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
That's all
Not
the
that she
bu-
needed any coverage, but she had it handled there.
That's all the business we have tonight. One final motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.